Hey everyone, thank you guys so much for joining today. So just reintroduce myself. I'm Dylan Kessler, product manager here at ServiceTitan, and I focus on ads. Jacob and Johnny have been working with me for the better part of the last year, building these products. I just want to kind of restate the problem that we're trying to solve with the products. Is we noticed that by far and large, the attribution to the CRM and marketing data was not meshing nicely from ServiceTitan to the rest of everybody else's operation in Google Ads. And to do that, we had one main goal. We wanted to make data accurate, reliable, and granular. And so we wanted to first help everybody measure their ads a little bit better. And that's why we created a attribution kind of system here, and then a new dashboard in Marketing Pro. And so does anybody have questions about that and what we're trying to achieve? No? Awesome. All right. Well, everybody has that same problem then. So our research paid off. And so far we're seeing great results, but I'm sure you guys have some questions on how to set things up and I guess more detailed nuances there. So feel free to fire away.
Okay, so who is on the ads beta currently and has not taken action? This is going to be kind of interactive. So if you want to turn on your cameras, that would be beneficial so we can see who we are. All right, Jason, will D&I distinguish between Google Ads campaign?
Yes, yes, it will. So part of the reason that we have you set up the Google Ads integration is so we can create a one-to-one mapping with campaigns in ServiceTitan to campaigns you have in Google Ads. And that way D&I doesn't just distinguish if the call is coming from Google Ads, it knows exactly which campaign it's coming from via the click ID and campaign ID that gets passed to the website, to our D&I code snippet that we have you put on there. And that helps us know that the call came from X campaign, and then you can kind of look into that campaign and see, which things about it are winning, helping you win or helping you not win.
Okay, I have another question. I used CallRail previously when I was with an agency, and oftentimes when you try to insert the dynamic number pool into CallRail, there's a JavaScript call error when you're using WordPress websites. So I was wondering if you've experienced that issue, and have you addressed it in any way, because we are running on WordPress?
We've actually tested our D&I script on WordPress. Now I have a lot of experience with website CMSs, and WordPress, not all WordPresses are the same. WordPress can be customized in many different ways. So it's we don't have a known conflict with WordPress at this time. I believe we have D&I up and running with other WordPress sites.
I know, just for us to piggyback, because we also used CallRail up until 3 days ago. I believe it's because if you put it into Tag Manager, then for CallRail, then you would never run into problems. But if you put it into header, so I'm hoping that with us putting it into header for the ServiceTitan, the D&I, then we won't have those similar problems. Because that was my next question. I think Jacob said that in the future we'll be able to see which keywords were actually searched that led to that campaign lead.
You can see it today by just identifying which campaign, by looking into Google Analytics, I believe. I'm sorry, your Google Ads account, and knowing which campaign created the call. Because I think
I'm saying with CallRail, you could literally, I would see what campaign, and I could actually see what they typed in. Like if they typed in plumber near me and then clicked on our plumbing campaign, I could actually see that they wrote plumber near me.
Gotcha.
Search term data, in other words. But
exactly.
When I used CallRail, I saw keyword data, so it would show what keyword triggered the ad to show which triggered the call.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Maybe I may have misspoke, but that's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's correct. I get the same function on our end as well.
All right. Yeah, Johnny, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So we we're importing everything into Google Analytics right now. And so if you have Google Ads integrated with Google Analytics, you'll be able to see most of that. And that's sort of like it's there today. We're importing the lead data into Google Ads, and so you can see it there, but that's not really different from CallRail. Very soon we'll be adding to our dashboard a keyword and a search term tab, so that you'll be able to see the keywords and the search terms, at least whatever Google will allow us to show, as they have some limitations on that. But as often as we can, we'll show that data. So right now you can see it at the ad group level, and if which is pretty good. And if your agency is doing like single keyword ad groups, it's kind of the best practice. You can kind of get the best sense. But very soon we will have visibility into search terms as well.
And back to the question about the code snippet being installed through WordPress, it should work through either Tag Manager or directly in the header.
Very good. Thank you.
So just so that I'm clear, as of current, it's just a one-to-one mapping, ServiceTitan campaign mapping to the campaign in Google Ads, correct? And not any further than that as far as ad groups?
No. So we have today our attribution in ServiceTitan is limited to the campaign, like that last touch campaign event. And so what we do is we attribute a campaign to a call. And that's like the most important thing we can do. But then all the data that goes along with the user data that goes along with that campaign. So we can grab that click ID, and then we can start just really understanding, more about the user and having more granular data there. And so in the future, we're looking at expanding our attribution service into more of a multi-touch world, where you can have like a first touch sent into ServiceTitan. And so we want to eventually be able to kind of paint the whole customer journey for you. But today in ServiceTitan, the way it works is just grabbing that last touch, campaign attribution, and then passing that through. And then you can look at which campaigns are creating which revenue through that last touch attribution event. And then by cross-referencing in Google Analytics, because of the data that we're importing back into Google Analytics, then you can look and see which ad groups and which keywords are performing there within those winning campaigns. So
that makes sense. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Currently, we're running just one campaign with 40 plus ad groups. So it sounds like we would need to break that out. Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need to, and you'd still get ad group level reporting within ServiceTitan. However, just as a best practice, it's usually a good idea to break it out more, because at the campaign level, you can control budget. You can't control budget at the ad group level. So if you're getting really booked up in one business unit, I guess you can just turn off that ad group, but you can't really play with that campaign lever. As well, Google Smart Bidding, usually you want to kind of group similar things together, and it makes Google Smart Bidding work better for your business. For example, if you have install jobs next to repair jobs, Google treats both of those the exact same, but you know that you would much rather have an install job than a repair job. And so separating them to different campaigns kind of lets you set those different targets in a way that tends to play nicer with Google. So you can make it work, but probably a good idea.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just from a cost standpoint for us and anybody else that may be on the call that has experienced this, agencies tend to charge more doing it that way, setup fees, or at least in our experience. So that's why we currently have the setup that we have currently.
I'm coming from an agency myself. I'm the new marketing manager for HVAC, electric and plumbing company. So I can tell you that what you want to do is set it up optimally, because Google's making it harder and harder to see good ROI on these campaigns. If you're with an agency that's really charging you a lot for the setup fees, you're probably with the wrong agency. But I do have a question, if you guys don't mind. When I run service or install, oftentimes I'll run a separate call only campaign. To get that approved, this might be for Johnny, to get that approved through Google, Google has to see the number that's going to show in the ad. Previously with CallRail, when we would put the dynamic number insertion, the Google Spiders does not see the dynamic number that you're trying to, we were assigning them on our end. Anyway, I guess my question is, will we need to have some sort of static number on the page that Google can read and use that same one in the ad? And then there'll be with our theme, the number at the top has to stay. So with that WordPress theme, I assume that's what's going to change with the dynamic number insertion. So will that cause an attribution discrepancy inside of ServiceTitan?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's the same issue with call only ads, also with call ad extensions. And so for everyone else, think of your Google ads, there's a phone number under it. And what we would want you to do, I'm taking a long way to your answer, Jason, but I promise I'll get there. We're working on a way to automate that right now, so that like the right ad extension, we just automatically put it in your account and it's all handled. For now, we recommend after you map your campaigns in the DNI setup process, or I guess the Google Ads integration setup process, you're creating these new campaigns, to add a phone number to those campaigns and put them in the Google Ads account as your extensions, if that makes sense. And so there'll be these new campaigns you're familiar with, you get a number for that campaign. Those should be added as extensions for the mapped campaign in Google Ads. Again, we're going to automate it eventually, but for now, it's a manual process, and that will help with, I guess, a more complete attribution. One issue is that in order to like validate that extension, Google Ads will crawl the website and see if that phone number is there. So in our research and conversations with Google, there's two ways to prevent your number being disapproved because it can't find it. The first is if you hook up your search console to your analytics in your Google Ads account, that is supposed to work. The other thing to do is to put these static numbers somewhere on your website. Now, the DNI pools are 25 numbers, which, I guess it's not, however many campaigns you have would be a static number. So I would recommend trying to get Search Console connected however you can. If you want to play it safe, then put those extensions somewhere on the site. From what I can remember, our process at our agency, we would put it, like kind of hide it in the meta of the site. So you wouldn't necessarily need it to be visible. But as long as it's somewhere in the code, like that was enough to prevent it from being disapproved. But to play it safe, I would recommend having the whatever extensions or call only ads you're using, put them on the site somewhere to prevent disapproval. But we are working on solutions to automate that for you, auto detect disapprovals, and figure out ways to keep your attribution just as clean as possible.
So inside of ServiceTitan, I would have the number, the static number, attributed to whichever campaign it relates to. Then with the dynamic number insertion, will there be an attribution problem inside of ServiceTitan? Seeing that the static number and this dynamic number, which could be one of 25, will there be an attribution problem inside of the ServiceTitan?
If you're adding the ad extension number or the call only ad number to the site, it should be hidden somewhere, probably in the meta, or like really tiny in the footer or something like that, so that it never gets called.
Yeah, important to not add it directly into Google also, because we don't have insight into that just yet. We do have a feature that will be coming out before we bring the product to GA post beta, where we are able to sync numbers between ServiceTitan and Google ad extensions. But for now, it's important to just keep track of which numbers you set aside in ServiceTitan in your DNI pool. And if you manually take one of those numbers and put it into Google, into the ad extensions, today we don't have visibility into that, so we couldn't stop it. And that could mess with your attribution a bit.
Thank you.
Oh, Laura, I'm reading your question here. Can you go into a bit more detail? I'm not sure if I understand it.
So one of the things that we've had some trouble with is tracking a customer. So, they call in via a campaign number, right? Could be from an email or it could be from anything. They call in, that number is attached in the marketing campaign. Then from then on, we don't have the ability, like that could be an estimate, no revenue, right? So when we do our reporting for that, what we're finding is that some of the campaigns are maybe looking like they're not working because when the customer calls back, they're calling our main number, or they, somehow it's not attributing the, assuming that we sell something on the second one, right? But I mean, it could be a month, it could be whenever, but the campaign is not being is not recognizing it because they could call in again, from a different one. And then how do you play with that? And then, if you get home advisor bookings or something like that, those are all customers, right? Not leads. So they're booked as customers. And it looks like on the reporting that those numbers, because, everything's got their own number, are not I'm not making this clear. I'm trying to.
I understand completely what you're saying.
Okay.
Because it's a frustration that we share as well, where there are so many things that are responsible for the lead, but you're only able to track the last touch that happened right before it.
Right.
Maybe they clicked an ad and it brought them into the buying cycle, and then they call the Google My Business number the next day. Google My Business gets all the credit, and now like what happens to the ad? So the multi-touch attribution, which Dylan mentioned, it's something that we're very super interested in. I almost said passionate about. I'm passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to build a really good system that allows you to track every touch along the journey, give you some visibility into what's responsible, what's not. That's further down the roadmap that we're going to be able to get to that. Just a lot of I guess technical things that need to happen to be able to support that, for ServiceTitan to be able to support that. In the meantime, we can at least, by pushing all of this data into Google Analytics and into Google Ads, you can at least take advantage of their multi-touch systems, especially Google Analytics, because you can see calls that came from organic and display and search. And by having all of that there, you can see the multi-touch journey with different analytics reports that are available.
Right, but that what you're saying there is, so we're not using the ServiceTitan or DataCube or anything like that. We're just using the Google Analytics. Is that what you're saying right now?
So by using ServiceTitan's DNI, you're able to get access to all the lead data, by organic ads by every channel, really, and then see the multi-touch journey, which is like sort of the stopgap. It's the best that's available today until we can, finish a product that allows you to see every touch and what was responsible. And
that would stay with that customer. That's staying with that customer, or is that staying on like marketing? Like, is it staying with the customer, or is this just like more of a reporting type thing? It'd
be both. Yeah. So you'd ideally you open a customer profile, and right now, if you do so, you can see, they called and they sent a text, but now like expanding that report to say they called and they clicked an ad and they saw an ad, and they like the whole marketing journey for that customer. I think that's an ideal end state that we're hoping to get to. And then you would have a lot cooler reports that show customer journeys and what channels and tactics are responsible. So that's the goal.
That was okay. Thank you. That was my question.
Awesome. So just to wrap it up, for Kelly, we've been chatting about GLSA. So just for those of you that are not aware, GLSA, so the call is going to come directly from Google. It skips the DNI process because it doesn't come from the website. We're looking into a way to track all of that in the future, but we do know when bookings come in from Google. Today, I think you can set a tracking number that GLSA will forward to, and you can capture the campaigns individually like that if you want to set that up in ServiceTitan. It takes a little bit of a manual process. And then if you do that, we will have a GLSA specific page that will aggregate those campaigns. To answer the question about categories, you can set as many custom categories as you like. The thought process on data structure and hierarchy right now is we want to leave categories intact if you have any kind of special categories you created that don't fit what other customers may be doing and are unique to your business. But we're moving in more the direction of UTM, where we're adding source and medium tracking to campaigns. So there will be source, medium, and category attributes to ServiceTitan campaigns, campaign tags.
No, that makes sense. I have categories set, and when I connected everything, it wiped them all out. And now, like the GLSA campaign and category, it changed it to some really long, crazy. The campaign, it changed from Google local service ads to like some crazy long thing, and then the campaign category completely wiped out, and it just says uncategorized, and I've recategorized it, and it just keeps like wiping it out.
Did you integrate a GLSA account into the Google Ads integration?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so that is a bug that we should have detected in our beta to prevent anybody from doing so. But Google Ads and GLSA are not the same, and Google for some reason lets OAuth connect to GLSA account to a Google Ads OAuth call, and that's what created this issue. So we'll solve that problem for you, Kelly. I think what we need to do is in the back end just unhook.
Oh, okay. And then it also did the same thing though for my PPC, the regular Google Ads. It wiped out all those categories and changed it to something called search. And I keep reassigning my own, and it just wipes it out and calls it search. Yeah.
So when we initially started building this, we wanted to force a standard because there was really no standardized campaign structure in ServiceTitan. So we started forcing assignments of to categorize these campaigns because PPC is essentially search. We feel strongly that it's better to start categorizing these things kind of in more of a UTM fashion. And we will be migrating into more of like a UTM structure, going forward. But I'm curious, like, what were you using the categories before that you wouldn't be able to accomplish with the new categories?
Mostly reporting, and it's pretty straightforward when I'm doing reports and looking at things. I just have everything. I have PPC tagged on everything, so I know it's pay-per-click versus not GLSA or anything else. I mean, search is fine if it stays like that, but to anyone else, like my owner isn't going to ever know what search means, so it's just going to be a learning curve.
Yeah, so we're probably going to be changing that to PPC just because when we first started out, it ended up being search, and we want to just make sure that there's consistency. But what we're leaning toward more in our new dashboard, where you'll be able to pull reports, is you'll be able to filter by category, medium, or source. And PPC is essentially a medium. So if you wanted to see a report if you're running PPC on both Google and Bing, you could see a blended report of how all your PPC are doing, and you can also limit by the source. So then you could see just Google PPC or just Bing PPC.
Okay. And then
for what it's worth, Kelly, I think search is a stupid name too. But when we designed it, we followed Google Analytics category structure where they have search, display.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but we wanted to keep it consistent with Google Analytics. I think we pivoted certain ways that it might make sense to just call it PPC instead, and you can still have display even though it's technically PPC. But yeah, appreciate that feedback specifically. And then were you going to say something else?
Well, yeah, I had another question I had asked about just mapping. I mapped all our campaigns and then we actually added new ones the next day, like yesterday, and I can't seem to get the new ones to pop in. And it could just be because it's in beta and that maybe it takes some time. How do I like
that should be working. So
okay.
If it's not, then that's just a bug going on with yours. So we'll take a look into that. I'll make a note of that right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so key to kind of get campaigns and campaign categorization correct into ServiceTitan. And the main goal that we're really trying to accomplish is make ServiceTitan marketing data align with Google marketing data and how your other marketing operations, right, in the real world. And we kind of saw that having campaigns and categories without any standardization was great at a time when it was created for mainly just trying to track where an inbound call came from. And it's more of like a branding tracking purpose. And what we saw also by far and large was those campaign categories and tags were created to optimize for the CSR, to use that dropdown. So they've been simplified and kind of generalized for everybody. So it's very common for us to see a single campaign called Google PPC.
Yeah.
And we know that you probably have multiple campaigns that either your agency or you are running in Google. And then not knowing which of those campaigns are creating which revenue, we saw was like the biggest problem to solve, because we had a customer that was spending 90% of their budget on campaigns that were not bringing them any revenue. And then they were able to kind of reallocate that budget and start, start fresh there. But that's the type of value that we're trying to bring to our customers.
That makes sense.
Hmm?
Scott, do you feel like your answer or your question was answered? Dylan added a message, but just want to make sure that you feel okay. This is Scott Slade.
He's all good.
He's all good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Laura had a question. She said, do all these tracking numbers hurt us on the ranking on GLSA, meaning a number the Google doesn't recognize being a long-time customer? Does it decrease your ranking when you add tracking numbers is basically what?
To GLSA, like in the GLSA ranking? No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
GLSA ranking is determined by your reviews, your proximity to the customer that's searching, that enters the GLSA funnel, and then your availability, I believe. Like you have to have available capacity that GLSA recognizes. If you're not available, they won't rank you. And then you have to be bookable, basically. And then I think they were doing it for a while. They may have changed it, but it's how quickly you answer calls. So it's the average of how quickly you're able to take those calls. And if you do set up the ServiceTitan booking integration, I believe that helps amp up your average, because it's an instant call. It counts as like an instant conversion or exception, I guess, because the booking goes directly through. They get a quick response from our API.
Yeah, there's other ranking factors as well, but like you need to just like, if you're going to use GLSA, you need to have a team to operate GLSA, right?
Yeah.
So we can talk about that all day long, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right, what other questions do we have?
So Carrie, just your comment on lots of manual manipulation to tie stuff together. And I understand it is a little bit of a pain in the beginning. It hasn't taken anybody too long to do the data mapping that we have. And the good news is, once you do it once, we have an auto sync feature that anytime anybody creates a new campaign in Google Ads, and soon Facebook Ads, which is an integration we're going to be launching into the beta, but it syncs with what your activity is there. So it always keeps ServiceTitan up to date. You don't ever have to like go back in and manually map anything, Our goal is to make this as easy as possible and as frictionless as possible.
This is great.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah.
What else
Okay,
do you
how
guys
about-
got?
Yeah, I have a question. How about for if they don't know what D&I means? What is D&I? Let's just take it back because we had Jason that's like super advanced, and we have super advanced people here, but let's also take it down to like, what is D&I? What is this beta? Go for it, Johnny.
Yeah, I got it. So the easiest way I like to describe it, which is probably isn't the best way, but it's my way. So we're going to go with it. Is I'll share my screen, and then I'll go to my favorite website of all time, sarahgerardo.com. It does it sometimes. Hold on. Your site's not down, Sarah. Don't worry.
Johnny made this site for me for fun, so we could test and play with things.
Yeah. She took off my fake testimonials that I thought were pretty good, but that's okay. So the whole problem comes with people are clicking an ad, a Google ad, and then they're calling your business. Google has no way of knowing that phone call, like without any sort of system set up, Google has no way of knowing that phone call happened. And so they can't track the conversion. And then when ServiceTitan's called, they have no way of knowing what was responsible for that call. And that was, I mean, like 10 years ago when ServiceTitan started, that was like revolutionary for them to like even have campaign tracking numbers. And this is just kind of like taking that to the next level. So when someone goes to the website, you'll probably see often that there's kind of weird gibberish that like comes after the URL. And really what this gibberish is it contains, or I guess links to all of the information about that website visit. And sometimes you don't even see it in the URL. It's just sort of like hidden in the code of the site, so to speak. But, and this one specifically called the Google Click ID, this you can kind of send back into Google, and then Google tells you the keyword, search term, campaign, ad group, time of day, device, kind of all the information it has on that click that led to the website. So we as ServiceTitan, or really any D&I solution, we want to track or capture this information so that we can create cool reports that show you keyword information and all this stuff. But we don't have any way of doing it. And even if you had like a single call tracking number, it becomes a problem when, let's say, I go to Sarah's website. I want to book her for a speaking event. And the number shows up, and this is my click ID. But then Dylan does the same thing. He has his own click ID. If we were to both be shown the same phone number, and I were to call it, ServiceTitan has no way of identifying, is this the right Google Click ID that we should be storing, or is it this one? Because it's the same number that's showing. It was called, but Johnny was looking at that number and Dylan was looking at that number. So we have no way to attribute. So what we do is for every unique visitor that shows up on the site, we show them a unique number. So you can see I'm seeing 5650, Dylan's seeing 4924. And these are just kind of, I don't like saying fake numbers, but they're placeholder numbers that forward directly to Sarah. These actually forward to Sarah's real number. And so if this number gets called, then we say, okay, 4924, that's associated with this information. Then we create the customer was Dylan. We send this into Google and say, give us all the information. Okay, well, we know Google or Dylan clicked on the Google ad with this headline and this keyword and everything there. So that's really how it works. The main difference between what we're doing and what CallRail or these other providers do is they're managing this in their systems that has no access to ServiceTitan data, including was it booked or not, was it a lead or not, how much revenue was a result of that phone call. And so that's really the basis of why we did it ourselves, because we can pull in this data. We can see that Dylan called, and this is all the information from this session, this website visit from him. But then we can follow it the rest of the journey, and we can see, did he actually book a job? And if he did, then we kind of wait and see, was there actual revenue? And that's really like game changing, something you can't get with other D&I providers. All they give you was a call happened, and they import that call into Google and sort of leave it there. But now you get the full funnel. And I'll show you what that looks like in the dashboard. Google makes it really hard to like make fake dashboards. And so we're just hard coding our own right now. So you see a lot of zeros. This is just a lot of fake data. Doesn't make any sense, but I'll walk through this. Before I do that, are there any questions on? Okay, I see some. Maybe Dylan covered it. Cool.
Kelly, when you're asking which company are we using for the integration, are you talking about D&I?
Yeah, sorry. We use call tracking metrics. I know CallRail's big. I didn't know if like you guys were outwardly saying like if you were using a specific one.
We built our own.
Okay.
Yeah, we built our own. It's actually part of it's married to our marketing and telecom system. So we should talk about the benefits of why it's better to have ours than CallRail, not just because we like ours better. But there are some key benefits there. It's going to be included with the price of Marketing Pro, and we saw it as an overage that was getting charged to a lot of our customers. And we already had half of the system built anyway with phones. So it wasn't a stretch for us to add D&I features and help accomplish our marketing goals that we're trying to accomplish.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And the other benefit I think Dylan was alluding to is when you're using CallRail or call tracking metrics, it's the customer calls, it goes to the call tracking metrics number, a CallRail number, and then jumps to ServiceTitan, which maybe jumps to your real number. And there's just like a lot of jumps happening. Because these are ServiceTitan numbers, it eliminates one of those jumps, which usually it's imperceptible, but it could be a second, and even one less second that a customer has to wait before the phone starts ringing can make a difference. So that's another benefit of it. And then, of course, as Dylan said, if you're using CallRail and you really wanted accurate attribution, you have to pay for every number. You have to pay for you or your agency has to pay for every minute that phone line is active. Usually it ends up being around 5 cents a minute, which at bulk can be hundreds of dollars a month, depending on the size of your operation. So that cost just gets eliminated because it's just ServiceTitan numbers, ServiceTitan calls that we're running anyways.
And what about the revenue connection?
Yeah, and that's the
most important part.
The most important part that you don't get with CallRail. If you had CallRail, they usually have call recordings, and so you'd have to go in and listen to every single call, and then try and cross-reference it manually with ServiceTitan to get any inclination of revenue, which is just, I've done it before at an agency, and it's long and tedious and difficult.
Well, we have all of our tracking numbers duplicated, so it just forwards. So the revenue is still there tracked, but I definitely see your point about the time savings, because it definitely, I'm sure, adds a couple seconds for the transfer.
You would need to have a one-to-one mapping of a campaign in ServiceTitan tied to that tracking number.
Yeah, that's what we have.
In Google. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask probably a question that everybody knows the answer to already? So I'm on the older end of the world here, and back we were doing yellow pages So that was, that's where I'm coming from. You wanted people to remember your phone number. Now I've got more phone numbers that my customers, there's not a chance that they would remember a phone number. Is there any way that you could have the phone number on the front be different from the phone number on the back? Does that even make sense? Like something that somebody would see, it might look like it's our same number that we've had for 40 million years, but on the back, it's a different number. Is that a question?
I think I know what you're saying. We can't get it to work that way. It's actually, now you got me trying to think if it is possible. I'm going to think more about that, see if it's possible.
It just seems like if you had your number, like, because I can tell you that Google My Business changes my phone number probably weekly, because I've had this number for so long that that's the number that they say is my number. And so I'm assuming that the analytics at Google is not very different from maybe some. Now I have younger children who, if you ask them my phone number, they'd probably look at you and say, you're nuts, because we just call you from the phone. So maybe it's just a whole new thing, but it just seems like it would be something feasible that if all of the phone numbers on the front, like we would have in our campaigns, the actual phone numbers to attribute to a campaign, say, but all the phone numbers look like one number. Does that make any sense?
I understand that desire completely. It's a concern that we've seen a lot of you are interested in local numbers rather than toll-free numbers, just for that same idea. And I mean, if you're on radio ads that, you have a catchy song that goes along with the phone number, and then they go to your website if it's different, like it's a realistic concern. It's definitely, like you said, becoming less and less valid. Sometimes I forget my wife's phone number and I just have to search for it by name. Like we're in a day and an age where we don't really memorize numbers. Unfortunately, I think it's a shame, but we don't. But for some people in certain demographics and whatnot, it is an issue. So I'm definitely going to, you may be onto something. I want to see if it's possible, because anything we can do to make the experience better, we'll investigate it. No other DNI solution does it. I think for a lot of reasons, it just won't be possible. But for now, we got to use that replacement number, and it forwards to the real number, and that's how it works. I think the reason we can't do it is, if they call that number, we really have no way of knowing. Again, if me and Dylan are looking at the same number, it has no way of detecting which one of us actually called that number. So
you wouldn't be looking at the same number, because, okay, so Mr. Computer, Mr. Google, whoever he is in the sky, he's looking at, the 833-221-4924 number. That's what Google is looking at. But Laura, is looking at your main number, whatever that number is. But that number is attached to that, the Google Click ID number is different on the back side. And I don't even know if there is a backside. So, because I'm not a computer person, but it just seems like there would be a backside, sort of like a tracking number that could be attached to the main number. It's just
I think she's more or less what's popping in my head is more or less how routers work. So the ISP would be the main number, and then somehow you could just have reserved phone numbers or IPs on the backside that then would route to whatever line is open at that time. Therefore, you'd see and track the call that way. So it's basically just a reverse theory of a DNI. If anyone follows me on that.
Like, is there like an idea to, because what, like I always think about like what your point is and what you're saying. You know, she's talking about like I don't know if you've ever heard like the 800-588-2300 Empire, like, you know, that's a catchy phone number or whatever, you know, this number is at the front. Like in a perfect world, because that's all not, you know, we're all having to get kind of screwed by Google because that's really what this is all about. In a perfect world, you would have one phone number, like what you're saying, man, like on the front page of this 833-221, because that's my branded campaign coming to the main page. And then on every single service page after, maybe that's where the DNI comes in. Is that maybe a way to fix it? Or am I just, you know, making things up as I go?
No, I mean, that's sort of, you know, again, I am so far down the totem pole on the brand, on the new marketing and the whole programming and all of that. But that's sort of what I'm talking about. The Empire phone number that we all sort of know is the number that everybody's calling. But on the back side, when they click to call, or, you know, whether it's through Home Advisor or Yelp or Google Local Services or whatever they're doing, or your website or your page or whatever it is, the number that the number that goes to your campaign is a unique number with an ID, but the picture that you see that the customer sees is actually
just one number.
Just one number.
I understand that.
I would, just to be frank about it, like if you could figure that out, then I think you would be a billionaire.
There it is.
There
it is. Get on it.
$1 billion idea right there.
Get on it.
This phone systems are so unfriendly that like this is the best that we can do. Like you would think that would be able to work, but I mean, if I'm looking at this and I pull out my cell phone and I call that, if the real number is the picture, the website still doesn't know if it's me or Dylan, because we're both looking at the same picture, calling the same number at the same time. And so it's that offline to online link. The only way we can link that is with unique phone numbers. It's the only way you can link Home Advisors, by having a unique number there as well. Unless like Home Advisor put a forwarding number on top of theirs, but it's really the only way that it can work, unfortunately. And it's a shame, but it's also, I guess, something to be grateful for, that this technology exists, that we can track every single user who comes to the website. And you lose a little bit of that brand experience with the phone number. But what you lose in that, you just gain in visibility and the ability to tie revenue to campaigns, which is just so valuable.
Okay, thank you. I agree. I mean, I want both, but
I do too. Of course, and it's just the way the marketing world is trending a little bit, is towards less the memorable phone number and more data analytics tracking.
Right. So it's less about branding, I guess, right?
The brand is the name. Branding's still huge, and it continues to be huge. But in terms of like phone number branding, it's more about tracking than it is about branding.
Gotcha. Okay.
When we get into things further down the roadmap of multi-touch attribution and all that, we'll be able to help quantify branding a little bit better.
All right. Thanks, guys.
We do have 10 minutes left, and I wanted Johnny just to give us a quick run through of the new dashboard, which he's doing now. And just, did you go over kind of the campaign insights that we should feel that folks should be looking for once they have everything set up, and how they can compare?
Yeah, I'll do that now. Because it's great. We have this new thing. What do we do with it now? It's supposed to work. And I want to give you a quick little tour on what to do with this awesome information, keeping in mind that these are zeros. Again, we're going to have a really nice demo dashboard done probably a few hours after this call. We're hoping it would be done by now. So use your imagination with me. But the boxes are where they're supposed to be. So under the marketing tab, you can look at a few different tabs now. There's marketing overview, which is all of your marketing efforts. So this would include direct mail, radio, all of your manual campaigns. I'm going to show you specifically ads, since that's really the focus of this call. So, well, there was just cost. So we highlight these top 3 metrics. They were kind of buried before in the dashboard, but really, like, if you have 5 seconds to look at the dashboard, you want to know, how much am I making? How much did it cost me? Like that expense to income ratio, which is your ROI, in a sense. So you can see right away, like, am I making money or losing money? And like, by how much am I making? You get typical ad metrics like impressions, clicks. You get the funnel, including click rate, conversion rate, website conversion rate, booking rate. And already you can start to see a difference from what you're probably used to from your agencies. Agency typically gives you, conversion rate, cost per conversion, and that's sort of where the report ends. Not all of them, but most are limited this way. Right off the bat, we're seeing the percentage of leads that resulted in a booked job. And this is now attached to your Google campaigns. And so you can see, sorry, I got distracted by Kelly's message, which is, we'll get to that one. It's a good one. So, I mean, you can see operational data, and I'll kind of sneak peek down here. So here's a campaign, and I want you to imagine all of your campaigns. If you have multiple here, for this demo account, we have one, but imagine multiple, and you have your normal impression share, impressions, clicks, these typical metrics, I guess. But now we can go past the funnel, and for each of your campaigns, you can see, well, how many are actual leads? And now we're looking at longer than 60 seconds, not excused or abandoned, the same way that you track leads already in ServiceTitan. How many are booked? What's your booking rate? How many were turned into ran jobs? How many were sold? What's your average ticket? And what's your expense to income ratio and total revenue? And so for each of your Google ad campaigns, you can now see profitability, which before you just kind of saw, well, which one gives me the most leads, the best cost per lead, which is important, and they're really good leading metrics. But now we're looking at real operational metrics that, like, and if your agency is looking at this, it completely changes the game for them. Whether they look at it in here or in Google Analytics, because now they can't just say, maybe I know I had this conversation when I was at an agency of like, I come to you, the client, and I say, we had a great month. Look at all these leads we got you. The cost per lead is down. Things are looking great. And then you come back to me and say, this was like one of the worst months we've ever had. I feel like it's not working. It was just that disconnect of, but we got you leads. They're good. Well, who knows what, and we didn't even get you leads. We got you phone calls. This just completely demystifies that. And it now turns into your agency can go in and say, wow, we got them a lot of leads. Cost per lead is low.
Johnny, is that
revenue.
And on the first touch, like, is that because my leads, when they come in, I may get a revenue associated to it, but we're finding that with a lot of these, we're having to do like free estimate type things. So I know you're multi-touch, but like on this report at the beginning, is it following that job to know whether it's booked, is it following the customer location, I guess is the.
Yes, I believe so, right, Dylan?
Yeah, she's talking about when you say customer location, you're talking about what becomes what happens with that book job, right? Like downstream. Right. Yeah. So both location, like geography of the location, and location of the job are tracked through this, which is really great. And so you can exactly what Johnny is kind of getting to here is that you can see if you scroll further along on that table, Johnny, toward the end. You can start to see like the book job, the ran job, and then the sold job, and then ultimately the revenue that it created for the campaign. So if it's a free estimate, then it doesn't count as that revenue. But if it's a sold job and then it becomes an installation, it counts as that revenue. What we will be adding
5 jobs.
Pardon?
It's all tracked. Like even if it took 5 jobs or
so it's
3
the initial
months or-
it's the initial job, and what we're adding soon to the beta is connections through projects. So then if it brought in and spawned a project in ServiceTitan and there are multiple jobs in that project, it'll attribute the revenue to the initial campaign that brought it in.
Got you. So then in this situation, we would be not booking jobs for this customer. We'd be booking it back to the original.
Well, if it depends on how you have your process, because everyone does it differently.
Yeah.
And ServiceTitan is great because we let our customers do things differently. But if you create a brand new job, if the tech creates a whole new job and just like cancels the first job, then you break the attribution chain that we initially built here. We did see that happening with other customers. And so the next thing that we're doing is if that job is now connected to additional jobs through a project in ServiceTitan, then we can see it from a data perspective. So then we'll be adding that in.
Okay, thanks.
Not everybody does that, but we do have some customers that do that process where they throw away that first job and then they come back and later do another job and they want it attributed to that marketing.
Cool. I mean, we're out of time. There's a lot more that we could talk about, but really, hopefully you can see how you or your agency would be empowered to, actually have visibility into your ads to see what's leading to true business outcomes rather than just phone calls, and make decisions. Just a quick highlight. We plugged this in for one of our beta users, early beta users. And within 30 days, we saw that they had one campaign that they were spending over $6,000 a month on, and it generated very few good leads, good book jobs, and $0 in revenue. And so right off the bat, it was, okay, let's dig into this, and ended up reallocating a lot of that budget. They ended up saving, I think they've reallocated it. It was a very recent call. We told them to. They're saving $6,000 a month that they were just wasting, that they didn't know that they were wasting beforehand. So yeah, thanks for your time. Let's get this going. If you haven't finished setup yet, definitely finish it so you can start to get this visibility and you can start to make this these cost saving decisions, this revenue growing decisions, and really get a look into what's going on with your ads.
Yeah, thank you so much. We can send out a recording copy, so feel free to reach out to Sarah if you want to get a copy of that recording. Please do click the link to the survey and fill that out. Let us know how we did. We'll be using it to adjust for next week. And please do continue to use that feedback form that Jacob posted or is in your email to give us feedback about the beta. It really helps us keep it into a single place and we can help manage, make sure there's no stone unturned and get to everybody's feedback.
Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks all.